You're listening to Inside Blitz with Levon Kirkland.
Hey, it's a great week. It's that time again. Welcome into the Inside Blitz with Levon Kirkland. I am your co-host, David Wyatt, along with Mikey Football Foster, and of course the big man, Levon Kirkland. Levon, take it away, my friend.
Oh, well, we're going to have a great show today, but, I want to encourage everybody, especially the ones that are out there listening. Last week's show was amazing. Jay Blanchard did a great job of explaining our programs and how they work and how they're going to help our young people and how they're going to make a big impact. So if you're out there listening, make sure you listen to our websites, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. But if you got Facebook, man, make sure you check us out live on our Facebook page. But this one, I thought, although Jay is not a football legend, man, he's a legend in the community. He does such a great job. And like I said before, he did an excellent job explaining our programs and why they're going to make a big impact for our kids.
Yep. Absolutely. Check out, it's on YouTube too, so you can see some of the graphics that we put into it. Yep. So if you have a chance to watch the episode, Jay was in studio with us. He wasn't on the phone. He was in studio with us. So there's a lot of dynamics there you can get from the YouTube or the Facebook Live version of the episode. So it really encourage everyone to do that. Make sure you all go to scfootballhof.org/join in order to help support the programs that we were talking about in last week's episode.
We want to thank all the people that have joined. We continue to get more members all the time each show, and thank you for that, because that is a big help for us. It doesn't cost much for you. It's less than $10 a month, but it really does help us. So, and there's great benefits for you. Now, we've got a great show, as Levon mentioned to you. Who's the interview with, Mike? And give us a little background.
Yeah. Bobby Bryant. He was a class of 2019 inductee. Came and joined us in April for our ceremony, and great guy. Went to South Carolina.
Gamecocks.
South Carolina Gamecocks. We learned a couple of things. His quarterback was Dan Reeves.
That's awesome.
At South Carolina, and you'll find out that he was a very versatile athlete as well. In this episode, I think that you're going to get to know a lot of cool things about Bobby, but the guy was a baller.
No question.
And if you look at his career with the Minnesota Vikings, he's second all-time in interceptions in their franchise history, which is pretty
amazing, because they played with some good defenses.
Yeah, that's right. And he did it all as really an undersized player.
Was he part of the Purple People Eaters?
He was part of the Purple People Eaters. They went to 4 Super Bowls, lost them all. But,
that's okay, though. At least you win.
He was there. Yeah. And he's a 2-time All-Pro, 2-time Pro Bowler, just like my man here.
Me. Yeah, man.
And so probably one of the more underrated Gamecock legends out there, just because he played really at a different time period. But you have to get to know Bobby Bryant, and I think you get to do that here, and great insight from him in this interview.
Yeah, so it's a great interview. Stay in tune with us there. It's Bobby Bryant coming up. There's a lot of things that he talks about that I think you're going to be interested in learning about. So with no further ado, we'll be right back with Bobby Bryant. We're the Inside Blitz with Levon Kirkland.
Hello, everybody. This is Bobby Bryant, and you're listening to the Inside Blitz with Levon Kirkland.
Welcome back to the Wyatt Law Studio and the Inside Blitz with Levon Kirkland. And I tell you what, we got a tremendous guest today. He was a class of 2019 South Carolina Football Hall of Fame inductee, born in Macon, South Carolina.
Georgia.
Huh?
Georgia.
Did I say South Carolina?
Yeah.
Okay. Macon, Georgia. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Okay. Went to the University of South Carolina from 1964 to 1967. ACC Athlete of the Year in 1967. 7th round pick, Minnesota Vikings in 1967. 51 career interceptions, Georgia Sports Hall of Fame. He currently lives in South Carolina. Bobby Bryant, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, Levon, and it's nice to chat with you. And and it's okay. Macon is a lot like Columbia, so Macon, South Carolina sounds okay too.
You know what? Thank you so much, because some of us, we do kind of forget, and I did play football for 11 years, so a lot of times you kind of do a lot of hitting and you kind of forget. But we got smart guys like Mikey who's here that's going to remind me every time I make a mistake. So, but hey,
what was your name again?
That's right.
That's right.
Yes.
Classic.
Hey, you know what? Can we have some fun?
Yes.
I'm gonna ask you a couple questions. They're gonna be fun questions for you, and then we get to know a little bit about you. Okay? You ready?
Sounds good.
Let's
Yes,
do it.
Ready.
Okay. I'm never gonna. So that's the part where you answer the question. I'm never gonna
play in the NFL again.
Okay. Now, do we like Saturdays or Sundays?
I like both Saturday and Sunday.
Oh, you got to pick one.
Weekend.
You got to pick one.
Pick one. Okay. All right. Well, I'll pick Saturdays because I enjoy watching college football more than pro football right now.
Me too. I do too. And I think everybody else kind of probably agree with that. Do you prefer tablets or books?
Tablets or books? I prefer a book. I like to. I'm not into all the technology, the new technology with the books and notebooks and things like that, the electric ones. But I still just like to have a physical book in my hand, turning the pages.
That's right, old school. And plus, the tablets kind of hurt your eyes if you look at them too long.
Well,
they're not good for you.
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, the worst birthday present you ever received.
I don't think I ever got a bad one.
That's right. Yeah. That's a good answer. A present is a present, right?
Yeah, a present is a present.
That's right. Okay.
Some of them.
Last fun question for you. Favorite U.S. president?
Favorite U.S. president? Abraham Lincoln.
I thought you was going to go with Ronald Reagan, but Abraham Lincoln was my second choice for you.
I thought it. Ronald Reagan hurt my mind, and Jimmy Carter, because I think my rookie year with the Vikings was it was right around the time that Jimmy Carter was elected president. That might have been '68 or something like that. But we got to vote for my homeboy Jimmy Carter.
Jimmy.
But as it turned out, he had a pretty tough presidency. But
I remember that.
I still liked him. He was a good man, and he still is a good man, doing a lot of great things. And I think he's about 98 years old right now. And I know he's in his 90s, late 90s. But anyway. Those are the old guys, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln. I kind of had a great deal of respect for them too.
Okay. Well, thank you. Hey, thank you for participating in our little 5 questions here. We really appreciate you being here too today. Thank you so much for taking time with us. The South Carolina Football Hall of Fame is about making a difference through football, and you were definitely one of the greats to grace our lovely state. So we just want to give you honor. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Levon.
Yeah. So now, you're coming from Macon, Georgia.
There you go.
There we go. I got it right this time. Can you tell us about your recruiting journey to South Carolina?
Yes, I sure can. I was a little skinny halfback in high school. My senior year, I was 6 feet tall, but I weighed 145 pounds. And
wow.
Not a whole lot of colleges were looking for 145-pound running backs.
Right.
Especially Georgia and Georgia Tech weren't. But South Carolina wasn't quite as particular because, South Carolina was in the ACC, and back then the ACC was certainly not as prestigious and as tough as the SEC. But Vince Dooley was a coach at Georgia, but he did recruit 2 of my teammates at Georgia, a tight end and a quarterback. And as it turned out, I was offered a scholarship by the University of South Carolina, and I ended up playing more than the other two guys that went to Georgia, and Vince at the Georgia Hall of Fame quite a few years ago now. But we happened to be sitting at the same dinner table one night. He said, "Bobby," he said, "I made a mistake." He said, we should have taken you, but you were so skinny that we just didn't know if you could make it in the SEC." And but anyway, he was very gracious. But it turned out pretty well. I got to play at South Carolina and found that eating 3 really good meals a day, even a skinny guy can gain a little bit of weight. So I ballooned up to 165 by my senior year, and then got drafted by the Vikings. And so I had some success with the Gamecocks playing football and then baseball also, and had a chance to sign a baseball contract with the New York Yankees my junior year, and then the Boston Red Sox my senior year. But I knew if I signed with the Vikings, I'd go to Minnesota and either make the big team or not. And if I didn't make it, I could have always gone back and maybe tried baseball. But it worked out.
Oh, no, it definitely worked out for you. Can you tell us some of your favorite moments at the University of South Carolina?
Well, my senior year, we won 1 game and lost 9.
Wow!
And the game that we won was against NC State, and Jim Donnan, who later became a college coach and coached Georgia and coached several other schools, I think. And but he was a quarterback for NC State, but he punted a ball over my head. I was a punt returner. He kicked the ball that hit in front of me and line drive, and it bounced way over my head. And I forgot that I was lined up on the 15-yard line, and I ran back to catch a ball over my shoulder, but unfortunately I was on the 2-yard line, and Paul Dietzel, the coach, was on the sideline saying, "Oh no, Bobby, what are you doing?" And by this time I had broken into the clear, and one of my teammates said, "Well, Coach, it looks like he's going for a touchdown." So it was it was a 98-yard touchdown, and the longest punt return in the nation that year, and still a record for South Carolina. And but of course they teach punt returners not to catch a ball or not to try to return them from inside the 10-yard line. But there's still some that do try to run with it. But I wasn't real smart back then. So
you just wanted to make a play. I chalk it up as you just wanted to make a play for your team.
Well, I did, and and it helped us, and that was the only game we won that year. So
you should have done. You should have been more proactive then.
I should have. Well, and then my sophomore year was Marvin Bass's second year with the. Marvin Bass was the coach. Paul Dietzel hadn't come yet, but. I played to Dan Reeves. You remember that name? He's in the Hall of Fame, South Carolina Hall of Fame too. And Dan was a quarterback, and I was still skinny, as I said. That was my sophomore year. I still weighed about 160 pounds, but they put me in one play against Wake Forest. That's when Brian Piccolo was there.
Oh yeah.
They threw a pass. Called a pass play, and I was in at halfback, and I ran that right down the middle of the field. That was my pattern. I was wide open, but he tried to throw it to somebody else. Well, so I got back to the huddle. I said, "Dan, I was wide open on that play," and never thinking that he was going to say, "Okay, we'll run it again." But he called it again, threw the ball down the middle. I jumped up and caught it. The 2 safeties both of them came and hit me at the same time from different sides. And you know the cartoons with the character hitting the wall and just sliding down. They both hit me, and it kept me up, but they both just fell off, and so I was wide open. So I ran 65 yards for a touchdown. But they never put me in at receiver again during the season. I'm thinking, man, these coaches aren't real smart. But
apparently not. Wow. But anyway, those were a couple of plays that really stood out to me during my career. That the first one was when I was a sophomore, and then the punt return was our only victory that year against North Carolina State. Wow. Well, only one victory that year, but you end up getting the ACC Athlete of the Year in 1967. Can you tell us about that moment?
Correct.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Well, that was I played baseball also, and I had a pretty good record. I was 6-2 as a pitcher for the Gamecocks, and was the first pitcher at South Carolina to strike out over 100 batters in one season. So, but anyway, I guess there were some scouts that thought, hey, he might be able to play baseball too. So that's why I was drafted by the Yankees and then Boston Red Sox. But those were. That was really unusual for me I think a player and the baseball team was pretty good. I know we had a better record I know we won more than one game, but we were ranked pretty high in the ACC. But as a football player, I'd had a good year returning punts and played pretty well as a defensive back. So didn't give up a whole lot of touchdowns or anything. So I guess that's why they, and usually the most outstanding athlete in the ACC was one that played multiple sports, and usually it was two sports. But there were some guys, I guess, that played three sports, which I can't see how you could possibly do that. But I guess they didn't have to study a whole lot. But
well, now could you tell us a little bit about your draft journey? You got drafted in 1967, as we said before, in the 7th round pick for the Minnesota Vikings, and you're 167 overall. 1967 and 167. So you ever played a lottery with with 167? There's got to be your lucky numbers.
Well, yeah, I guess it must have been, but I just didn't know it at the time. But they were, I was such an important draft choice that they had the equipment manager call me and tell me I'd been drafted by the Vikings.
Wait a minute. So the equipment guy tells you that you're drafted by the Vikings. How did that conversation go?
Well, his name was Stubby Easton, and he had a peg leg. He had gotten his leg blown off in the war.
Wow.
But he was the equipment manager for the Vikings, and but I think back then they didn't have 20 coaches on their staff, so they had I think everybody that was part of the organization had to be part of had to have some little job with the draft to make sure all the jobs got covered. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it was because they thought any less of me. Because and therefore had the equipment manager call me, but that was probably his job, was to call some of the players and tell them that they had been drafted. But anyway, back then I was a 7th round draft choice, got a $7,500 signing bonus, bought a brand new Pontiac Bonneville gold colored.
Oh yeah,
that was a long one too. Man, that was a nice car for $3,500. So. That tells you something about the price of vehicles, huh?
Oh yeah. That was well. I mean, I imagine now that's a good deal, but back then it's probably pretty expensive car.
I guess so. It was a nice car. Yeah, the Pontiac was the Bonneville was a kind of pretty classy car. So.
I remember the Bonneville. Yes, very nice car. Yes. So tell us one of your favorite NFL moments.
One of my favorite NFL moments.
Yes.
Let me think. Well, one of my during the I'd close to. I had 49 interceptions, and it was my last year. And I was thinking, man, I told my wife, well, I'd really like to get. I'd like to get at least one more interception to have 50.
Right.
50 is just better than 49. So
yes.
Anyway, I told her the next time I scored a touchdown. This doesn't have anything to do with the interception. I told her when I scored a touchdown, I was going to throw her a kiss from the end zone. So we were playing the Rams in the 1976 NFC Championship game, and they had received the opening kickoff, and they marched 80 yards and had first and goal on our 1 yard line, and we held them for three downs on the 1 yard line. Then they tried a field goal on 4th down, and Nate Allen, one of our other corners, blocked the kick, and I caught it on one bounce on the 10 yard line and ran it 90 yards for a touchdown. And then at the end of the game, the Rams were marching down the field and needed the touchdown to go ahead of us to win the game. And we were in blitz coverage, and that's when the puckering starts. Mm-hmm. When you're in blitz coverage. But anyway, I was covering Harold Jackson, who was semi-fast. He could run pretty fast. Mm-hmm. He was great. Wasn't a real big receiver, but he was a great receiver. And Ron Jesse was on the other side. But both the wide receivers ran post pattern, so I was running towards the middle of the field. Well, I was reading the quarterback all the way, and that was Pat Hayden, quarterback.
Oh yeah.
And he wound up and was looking the other way the whole time, and so I just took off across the field, and he threw a pass, and Ron Jesse was about 5 yards behind Nate Wright, just getting ready to haul it in and take it in for a touchdown. I jumped up in front of him and picked it off, and we were able to go down and score again, and that put us in the Super Bowl. So,
that's awesome.
So that was pretty exciting. That set us up for our fourth Super Bowl loss, but it was still. People said, "Man, you 4-time losers, huh?" I said, "Yeah, we got paid the same amount as winning twice, and we got 4 rings instead of 2." So
that's even better. Now, do you remember to blow a kiss to your wife, or do you forget?
I did. When I got to the end zone, I did blow a kiss to her, but she couldn't see me because they had the wives section was behind home plate in the baseball stadium, which was in the second deck, and it was real dark up there. She couldn't see me right without the other end of the field, but she did see the instant replay on TV later on. So she did, and I've got the video of that too. So she gets to see it.
Bobby, you seem like an old romantic. Is that true?
Just a little bit.
Blowing kisses.
Well, I blew a kiss one time when I was, it was my last year also. I was 37 years old, and I'd returned punts when I was younger, but by this time I was not returning punts. But we had 2 punt returners, and they both had did something to, sprain some fingers or something, and they told the coach they couldn't catch punts. So Bud told me, he said, "Bobby, I want you to go in there and fair catch it." He said, "I don't care how far they kick it, I want you to fair catch it." Mm-hmm. So I said, okay, and so I went in, and the first 2 punts were real long punts, and I could have caught them and run 10 or 15 yards and fell down and before anybody could have gotten to me, but I called a fair catch because that's what Bud Grant told me to do, and the fans started booing, and so I said, well, the next time if they boo me, I know what I'll do. So sure enough, the next punt was a long one, and I called for a fair catch, and they booed, and I flipped the ball to the referee and then turned around and blew kisses to both sides of the stadium. And that made the blooper film that year.
Right.
Levon, you've probably seen one of those blooper films.
Yes, of course.
Where both teams are fumbling back and forth, and they kick the ball around and fumble it 3 or 4 times, and but that did make the blooper film that year. So.
Well, that's an accomplishment of itself, making the blooper films. It is. Now,
it is. Yeah, a lot more people get to see you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're talking to Bobby Bryant here, and Bobby, with our organization, the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame, we always talk about making a difference through football. But can you tell us how football made a difference in your life?
I sure can. I know, and I started playing football in the 4th grade when I was 10 years old. Mm-hmm. And I had some great coaches. I mean, and as a football player, especially when you're young, if you'd have to have a really bad coach not to have a lot of respect for them, because it's just it's a game where you realize it's a tough game, and if you're lucky enough to have a good coach, you really appreciate the lessons you learn about life, and how sometimes when you get hit, you say, I remember getting tackling guys before, and it really hurt, and something I'm thinking, man, should I leave the field?
Right.
And I'm thinking, no, I can't leave, because we always had this saying with the Vikings, if you got hurt, you didn't know it, and got out of the game for a while, you didn't know if you were going to get back in there if the guy that replaced you was doing good. So nobody wanted to leave the field, but I just learned that you really needed to learn how to to play when you're hurting a little bit, play when you're tired. So it was a great learning and discipline for me, and I came from a disciplined family too. So that just reinforced the importance of being disciplined, and that was one of Bud Grant's main points for building a winner. He said teams that don't make a whole lot of mistakes have got a lot better chance to win than a team that makes a lot of stupid penalties and makes mistakes and is not prepared when opportunities like fumbles or interceptions or things like that present themselves. He said a good disciplined team and player will make those plays, and that'll help you become a winner. And I think he proved that. We won out of my first 11 years with the Vikings. We won our out of my 14 years, we won our division 11 times. So that was pretty good.
That's
success.
amazing.
But it was just football is a great lesson to learn about teamship and working together, or teammates, and the importance of a team when you're playing a team sport, because you can if the other 10 guys can do their job, and if you're the one that doesn't do a job, you can be the reason the play fails or the team is not successful. So teamwork is very important, and the discipline to know what you're doing and to be prepared. That's a great lessons that sports taught me.
Yes, it's a tough man sport, but I always say this. I always say football relates to life better than most other sports, because even if you get a little sick, I remember my parents getting sick, but guess what? They still got up and they still went to work. In football, you get a little banged up, hey man, you still got to get out there and play because your other guys depend on you.
That's exactly right. I found that the times that I felt worse, I played best, because you realize that you might not be at your best physically, but you needed to really concentrate. So it's interesting how that happens sometimes, where you don't really feel like you feel like playing, but you end up playing better than you might ordinarily do.
No question about it. Okay, well, I have one more question for you. I just want to know, what's your current passion now? What's something that you really believe in at this point in time in your life?
Well, I believe I'm a Christian, and
yes,
I believe that, I've put my faith in Jesus Christ and in the sacrifice that He made on the cross to pay the penalty for my sins, so that when I die, I know I'm going to heaven. And I believe, and the Bible tells us all that if we are Christians, that we need to tell other people about Christ also, especially our loved ones and our friends, because otherwise, if they don't know Jesus Christ as their Savior, then they're when the Bible says when you die, it's too late. You can't make that decision then, saying, "Oh, I think now is a good time to put my trust in what Christ did on the cross when He died for my sins." So I think one of the most important things that I can do is to live a life that shows what a Christian is supposed to be like, and not only shows it, but is not afraid to talk about it either, and to tell other people, not to try to force anything on them, but to try to help them understand what I believe and what the Bible says about what we should do to know that we will spend eternity in heaven.
Wow, that's a powerful message. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Guys, do you guys have any questions that you'd like to ask Bobby? I know you got one, Mike. See? I knew it.
Hey, Bobby, this is Mike. Thanks for coming on. Really enjoyed getting to meet you in April and having you part of our ceremony. And one thing I'd like to ask you is, obviously you're from Macon, Georgia, as we've determined earlier.
Not Macon, South Carolina?
Not Macon, South Carolina. And that you spent a lot of time in Minnesota, but you chose to come back here to South Carolina and spend time here in South Carolina and Columbia, living in Columbia, and also even being a part of a business here in South Carolina as well, and working and working here in the state. What inspired you to come back to South Carolina and work and go to work here in the state and continue to support Columbia, South Carolina?
Well, after the season, my wife and I would always come down south to just get out of Minnesota for a while because it was so cold there, and we'd always come through Columbia because I had a lot of teammates that from different parts of the country that stayed here. They really liked it. And it's a beautiful state, but we'd come down in late December or January, and the temperature might be 70 degrees on a certain day. We think, man, that's pretty nice. Mm-hmm. But the weather was so much milder down here, and plus the friends that we had, the friends that the guys that I played with, and then we had gotten to know their wives, and so it was just felt like being part of a family. And of course, once you're a Gamecock, and once you're a Tiger, or once you're a Steeler or a Viking, you're always a Steeler and Viking and Gamecock and Tiger. So that was one of the reasons that we felt right at home here when we came back.
What's the coldest temperatures you ever played in Minnesota? Coldest.
The temperature in 1976 NFC Championship game against the Rams. The temperature was 0 at game time.
Jeez.
And with the wind chill, the temperature was 13 below 0.
Good night.
Wow.
And it was not fun.
You don't want to hit anybody when it's that cold.
No, you don't.
You don't.
You don't want to get hit. You don't want to hit anybody. But I remember having quarterbacks throw me a ball just right into my hands in that cold weather, and I couldn't feel my hands because Bud Grant didn't let us wear gloves and we didn't have heaters. So I'd go to the sideline after that, and he'd say, "You should have caught that ball." And I said, "Yes, sir." Right.
Great.
I should have said. I should have said, well, probably could have if I'd had gloves.
I mean, how about a pair of gloves, Coach, in the heater?
Yeah, really.
I didn't think it was a good idea to talk back to him, so I didn't say anything. I said, you're right.
So Bobby, David Wyatt here, and again, we want to thank you for being on the podcast with us, and we really had a great time with you in the April ceremony, and just point out that Vince Dooley, once again, you find yourself at a Hall of Fame with Vince Dooley. How about that?
Yeah, that was all right. Yeah.
Did you get a chance to talk to Coach Dooley at the event?
Yes, I did.
That's pretty cool stuff. So, but you go ahead. I'm sorry.
Were you talking about which
at our event this past April?
Oh, I did see him just briefly.
Yeah.
Yes.
He had a lot of people. I know, as did you.
Yeah, he was
trying to vie for your time.
He was pretty busy.
Yeah, no question about it.
Steve was pretty busy too. So.
Yeah. That was great. It was a great ceremony. Again, we appreciate you. Honored to have you in our Hall of Fame. You talked about another Hall of Famer, Dan Reeves, who was once your teammate.
Yes.
Did you ever get an opportunity to play against him in the NFL?
I did not. Let's see. I'm not sure if we played Dallas, so I must have played because he played a few years. So I was just a couple of years behind him. I'm sure I played against him when he was still playing with Dallas.
I was thinking you might have had a chance to put the paint on him, on the other side of the ball. But anyway, so you don't have a memory of that. We've heard some great stories from Coach Reeves, and certainly some of the Ice Bowl, I guess, was one of the. Yeah. I don't know the Ice Bowl though. It sounds like this negative 13-degree game that you played in against the Rams was. I mean, I don't even know if they let you play in that type of weather anymore.
No, not at all.
Well, I'll tell you the Ice Bowl that was really. I mean, that was unreal. Just watching that game and seeing how cold it was, and the field was frozen. You could see that the cleats weren't even digging into the field was frozen by that time. They were slipping and sliding around, but yeah, they shouldn't play in that kind of weather. I mean, I heard that there were several players that suffered some frostbite because of that game, being out there, the linemen putting their hands down on that frozen field the whole time. So,
and of course, that brings up another point, and I think that you would agree, but I'm going to ask you the question. What do you think about the safety measures? There's a lot of emphasis been put on changing the rules and the equipment. What's your opinion of what's been done for the game?
Well, I think the rules are about using your head as a battering ram and hitting players in the head. I think those rules to try to eliminate that, or at least reduce the occurrence of it, is good, because I know Levon's probably got some teammates that are no older than him that are suffering some dementia now, and I've got several friends that are younger than me that in Minnesota that are suffering from dementia, and so back then, I mean, the concussion protocol was if you got dinged in a game, we call it getting dinged. That's getting knocked out. But if you get knocked out in a game, you went to the sideline, and the trainer would hold up 2 fingers in front of you and say, "How many fingers am I holding up?" And you say 4, and he say, "That's close enough. Get back in there."
I call it the amnesia test. It wasn't really concussion protocol. It was just the amnesia test.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, they just want to make sure you remember where you were, how many fingers you got up, what quarter it was.
Yeah.
Stuff like, and later on my career, if you would ask me those things, I'd be like, what quarter is this again? So,
Yeah, I know it. Yeah, no kidding.
yeah. Well, hey, Bobby, we really, really, truly appreciate it. It was fantastic talking to you. You got to come back.
Yeah.
You got to come back on the show.
I will do that. Yeah, I'll be glad to.
Good, good. Now, is your treatment almost over with?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Well, great timing then. Great timing.
It was pretty good. So
Yeah.
I was a captive audience right here with getting this treatment on my ankle. So,
Oh,
but
cool.
this is a broken ankle. From Ahmad Rashad came down on my back in practice one day, and I broke the outside bone on the lower leg.
Oh,
You
wow.
got the tibia, the fibula, and that's a non-weight bearing bone. And supposedly some players have played with broken fibulas, but I wasn't tough enough to play one. I couldn't run with it. So, but anyway, it's finally, after all these years, it's with the calcium buildup and everything, it's just really painful. So I'm having some treatment on it. Hopefully it'll get better.
Oh, it will get better. But again, thank you so much. We really do appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
Yep.
All right,
Yeah,
be
thanks
good
for
now.
having me on. Yeah, good talking to you all.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Thanks, Bobby.
Yeah, bye. Yeah, man. Bye-bye.
Great interview. What an amazing athlete.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Who knew that, Dion Who, Bo knows, what about Bobby knows?
Right.
I mean, baseball, football, offense, defense. Sounds like they missed an opportunity there to get a playmaker involved at some point there in Columbia.
Of course, we didn't talk about, he's one of, I think, 11 kids in that family. So they had plenty of opportunity to mix it up and play some sports, didn't they?
No doubt.
Well, honestly, with 11 kids, you can have a basketball team. You can have one side of the family playing against the other side of the family, and you still have one sub.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's pretty cool.
That's not too
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
All-time quarterback or all-time hitter or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, no question.
But anyway, that was great. Great interview with Bobby
Right.
Bryant, and appreciate you listening. And we'll be right back. We're the Inside Blitz with Levon Kirkland.
You're listening to Inside Blitz with Levon Kirkland.
Welcome back to the Inside Blitz with Levon Kirkland. What a great show. What a great interview. I tell you, it's always so fun to have these Hall of Famers. We have the best Hall of Famers in our mix, and that was certainly a great talk, and love what he had to say. So, obviously, we appreciate you listening, so thank you so much. And here at the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame, we're all about leadership, and of course, we take it upon ourselves to lead ourselves first and then to lead others. And of course, Levon Kirkland, one of the greatest leaders, especially in this room, and has certainly proven himself on many levels, has an inside look section, which we're coming to right now to get some nuggets on leadership. So without further ado, I'm coming to you, Levon Kirkland, for the inside look.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. David. We talk about leading ourselves, and when you're leading yourself, you have to know your own values and your own principles. So basically, it starts with you. And I would say if you're trying to lead yourself, the first thing you got to do is you got to invest in yourself. And most true leaders, they have what we call natural abilities. You know, they have something. But just like any athlete, you got to work hard on your skills and your knowledge. So I think when you're leading yourself, think of yourself as a corporate athlete. Have you ever heard that before?
No.
Corporate athlete. You got that natural skills, but you got to work on your game. And you can't expect to be good or expect to win if you don't work on your game, if you don't practice, if you don't work on your skills. So what would I say to you? I would say, read some good books. And I'm not talking about the trendy books about, hey, be a better leader. Look at guys like John Wooden, guys who actually done it. I also say do some volunteer work. I will also say engage with people. Get yourself a mentor. You're never too old to have a mentor or have a coach. So leading yourself is about investing in yourself.
That's very good stuff right
Like
there.
that.
So something that you're good at and just continuing to get better at it. Was there some of the tips that you kind of could share that would help them know what they're good about, what they're good at? And what
a lot of times, I look at it from my standpoint as a football player. I knew I was a good athlete, but playing inside linebacker, I had to know the little nuggets about the game. So I think people know about themselves, but then do you do the little things? Do you practice the little steps here? Understanding what I used to call choosing the right angles. Mm-hmm. So that's basically what it is. You just have to kind of really figure it out for yourself. Dig deep and see what you're made of and see what you're good at, and then try to perfect those things.
Yeah, and that's a great tip too about the mentor, because a lot of times a mentor can engage with you, somebody you trust, and can help you say, hey, this is what you're doing really good, do more of this. Maybe you need to work on that.
Or give you a perspective that you never really had before.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's good stuff right there. The Inside Look with Levon Kirkland. Now, we have this trophy here that is a very coveted trophy here in South Carolina. Those that have won this in the past, many of which are still playing in the NFL. This is the Blanchard-Rogers Trophy. This is basically South Carolina Heisman. It's the best player in or from South Carolina. And so heading up the sponsor, or the scouting for that is our man, Mikey Football. So catch us up.
Yeah.
Another great weekend of football.
Absolutely.
Where are we on this great trophy?
Well, last week we were able to release our finalist list of
Top 20.
Yep, top 20. And so right now you can vote right now on the website.
You can vote.
You can vote for your favorite college player from South Carolina right now.
scfootballhof.org.
But there's a caveat. You need to become a member.
Which is very simple.
Right.
So do it now.
scfootballhof.org/join.
Or just click the little join button when you get to the website.
That's
Not a problem. Easy.
That's right. But we got some big performances this week, this past weekend from Travis Etienne.
That's
right there.
We won it last year.
And the quarterback, Lawrence, also had a great week as well. How about Furman's Devin Wynn, running back? 5 total touchdowns, 4 rushing, 1 receiving.
5 touchdowns.
5 touchdowns, same game.
Wow.
Destroyed. Gave Furman a huge win this weekend. And then how about Gamecock Brian Edwards, wide receiver? He broke the South Carolina record for most receiving yards in a career.
Wow.
This weekend.
Impressive.
So,
And they've had some great receivers.
taking over Alshon Jeffrey, and if you look at the list of wide receivers from South Carolina, it's a pretty impressive list.
Yeah.
no question about
starting
it.
with Sterling Sharp.
That's right. That's right. Alshon Jeffrey's great. You
Yep.
know, Sidney Rice was great.
Right.
You know, Robert Brooks was great.
That's
Yes.
right. He's in big company there.
That's right. And then Travis Etienne also became the leading touchdown maker in Clemson history, beating C.J. Spiller.
Easing out our good friend C.J. Spiller.
That's right. So
Future Hall of Famer.
those two, obviously, congratulations to those two guys making big splashes here this weekend, and obviously finalists for this award. And big shout out to DeRogan Wells, Valdosta State. They won another one. He passed for 350 yards.
He's a baller, man.
He's a baller, D2 kid from Fort Mill, just tearing it up on
Fantastic.
the D2 level.
Fantastic. So, yes, Mike, great report. And please go check out these 20 ballers because these are some great players. They have some great stats. And it is anybody's ball game. And we want you to help us make that decision. So please go vote. And Mr. Kirkland.
Yes, sir.
What about yourself? Pro, college, any comments you got?
Well, I think in the pro game, man, I got to give a shout out to my guy, Adam Humphreys, man, from Spartanburg, South Carolina. He caught the winning touchdown when the Titans played. I forget who they played. Titans played the Chiefs. Yeah. And the Chiefs are pretty good. So my good friend Mike Vrabel is the head coach there. So I was glad to see those guys get the win. So that's a shout out I got to give to Adam catching that touchdown. That was the Hunter before Hunter Renfro.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, wow. You wear that number 13 as a wide receiver with the Clemson Tigers. You got to be a player.
Adam Humphreys, great guy, great individual, and a great athlete.
He's done some work with us in the past.
Yep,
he's
volunteered
and
worked with
to
some
the
of
NFL.
the kids, and definitely has a heart for the passion and the cause that we're celebrating here.
We got to get him on the show then.
Yeah, we do.
Wow!
You know what? That is Coach Jeffrey's flag coming in here from our fearless producer, Evan Tripp. So that does let us know that we're out of time. So
good job, Evan.
We appreciate you listening in and tuning in, and all those that have joined and are going to join. And so thank you so much. We're the Inside Blitz with Levon Kirkland, and be sure to tune in next week when we have Paul McGuire, who was a legendary broadcaster. It's a great interview. We can't wait to come back. Have a great weekend. God bless you.
You're listening to Inside Blitz with Levon Kirkland.